Teaching and Learning Conference. It's titled Team-Based Learning, a Transformative Medical Education Module During the Pandemic. So what is team-based learning? Team-based learning has four critical elements. It has groups, so students always are in groups. They have accountability. It has built-in modules for accountability as an individual, but also as a team. It has quick feedback from instructors and experts so that students stay on track. And it has built-in application so that students can not only learn their factual details, but also do problem solving and higher order problem solving in a team. So the structure is where students learn individually before the class. They come in directly. There's a test individually, and then they take the same test again without a break. And obviously, they perform better in the team test. Students who miss or they think they were right, they go in and appeal for their incorrect or correct answers, and instructors and experts give a feedback so that they are on track. Having done these, they go into application exercises where they do in-depth exercise on a clinical case. The grading is based on the individual test, the team test, and participation, plus a peer evaluation, which we currently do not do. So I'm going to go and talk mostly about the in-class activities, which include the IRAT, which is the individual readiness assessment, team RAT, written instructor feedback, and application exercises. So this is how our team-based learning looks at EnMed. Again, EnMed is a engineering medicine school, medical school, which only takes in engineering or computer sciences undergrad students. So the pre-class is only a week's learning, so it's not 2 weeks or a month of learning. It's only 1 week. The readiness assurance test is based only on that particular week's learning. They take the test covering that material individually, and then they take the same test as a team. And finally, the steps 3 and 4 are merged for us as we look at the team's performance and clear concepts as we go along. And finally, the application activity is always a clinical case. A higher order learning is built in where we blend in engineering and push the limits of our understanding and ask them to make newer discoveries or innovative ideas to tackle the case. A total grade component is 6%, depending on how many TBLs if you have. So you can have 2 TBLs of 3% or 3 TBLs of 2% each. The readiness assurance test is graded, which is a closed book. The application is not. And during the application, students focus to work in groups, and a participation grade is provided up to 60%, depending on the course director's prerogative. So what is the readiness assurance test? So this is the backbone of the TBL. This is where the students have learned for the week and they come in and take the test. And so it prepares the students to understand the material and apply it when they go into the application. It also helps them develop team-based skills because they learn from their groups. And it has 4 steps: the individual RAT, as we talked about, the team RAT, and appeals and instructor feedback. And I'll give you a quick example here. So this is an actual TBL where there were 7 questions and the performance of the class is not that great in question 1, question 3, and question 6. And so nobody scored 100% in this TBL. However, when they take the same test, immediately after they have taken the individual, you see that most of the questions, their doubts are all cleared up, except for question number 1 and 6, where one group chose an incorrect answer here, and one group in question 6 chose an. So as an instructor, you only focus on discussing question 1 and 6, and others, there might be question, but these are the 2 concepts you want to clear before you move to the application portion. So what's the application exercises? So application exercises take in 4-step process, the 4S. It's a significant clinical problem, and each group gets the same problem. And then there are specific choices based on what the solution for each of those questions is. and we do a simultaneous reporting, meaning nobody is influenced by somebody else's answer. And then they have to defend their choices. So here is an example. It's not critical to look at the case, but here is a response that we generated. So there are 7 groups. 3 groups chose A as the correct answer, 3 C and 1 D. So we can ask group D, why did they choose it? Because if you look at the question, the first part of the answer, systemic pressure drops, is the same. So that's low level fruit. So they can understand. So they chose of all 3 choices chosen, they have that as the correct answer, a correct portion of the answer. And then the peak velocity increases, which is the same in all 3. Sorry, in these 2, not in this one. So this person, this group did not look at this in detail, that the velocity has decreased. And finally, between these 2, whereas one, the patient feels better, and the second is patient when you collapses, there is a discord between a discussion that we can encourage between the groups as to why would they choose one versus the other. And this is where the higher order learning comes in. So how do you develop these modules? We develop it through a backwards design. We define the key learning objectives. What do we want the students to learn? Are these objectives matching with the USMLE requirements? And then we write clinical, the application exercise, which are clinically relevant, and they have higher order thought-provoking questions to stimulate discussion. And then to answer those questions, they need to know certain material, and those materials are tested in developing the rats. And then once we have the questions done in rats, we define what material we need to give them so that they are able to learn and answer the rat question. So in all, at the NMed, we have 45 total TBLs, 13 in fall, 17 in spring, and 15 in the following year's fall. But before the pandemic, and this is where our innovation comes in, we were using scratch pads and flashcards with different answer choices, which they would display at the same time, which is the simultaneous reporting. And this is how it looked like. The IRAT was where students were working individually. The team RAT, they would work in groups, and one would be a reporter, and he would give us their answer. And then during the discussion section of application, they would show their flashcards. Each session was initially long, more than 3 hours, which students complained because the time invested in this TBL was not commensurate with the output in terms of grades. So we went online and we decided to use Interdash, which is a paid software, $50 per student per year. We can use eCampus, Canvas, Microsoft Forms with Excel, and then we have this open source TBL, and then online conference feature with grouping or subgrouping or breakout room feature. So we have invested in Zoom, but all of these can also do the same. For simultaneous reporting, for us, we use Interdash, which is a one-stop shop software, but you can use Poll Everywhere, Zoom Poll, or other softwares that are available. So how does it look now during the pandemic? So instead of taking tests individually, we ask them to take the test in Interdash. We put them in groups after they have taken the individual rats, and then through Zoom, they interact with each other. One person is the reporter, and they fill in a separate Interdash form, which is the team rat form. And finally, we keep the same groups and put them in discussion groups for our application exercises, as we showed earlier how it looks in terms of answering pattern, as we have to have simultaneous reporting. So now with these methods, we have been able to reduce the session to 2.5 hours. And so the conclusion is that we've been able to use TBLs as a method of delivering content, which is replacing didactic lectures. In fact, we have more TBLs. The students are performing better than their counterparts at the main campus. A combination of Zoom and Interdash works very well, but other softwares and tools are available that can help them. The constant feedback from students, from faculty, interaction helps them in higher order learning. One thing which we are still working on is how to include peer evaluation, and we'll be working on that as we go.